Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our special office hours this week. We're going to be diving in with one of our favorite friends here in the ecosystem, Drew. Drew, I didn't want to butcher your last name. It's beautiful. It reminds me of my Italy trip that I'm going to be taking this summer. But Drew Giovanoli,
I like
is
that,
that
George.
right?
Yes, and you're beautiful, George. Thank you for that.
Awesome. Well, for the folks out there, Drew is the founder of an incredible organization that we're going to dive into here in a little bit. But, maybe Drew, you can tell us a little bit about Buried Winds and a little bit of kind of your story and what do you do at Buried Winds today. Of course, we're going to dig into the win-loss recruiting topic, why it fails and how to fix it. We're going to dig into some of those best practices here. So for the folks out there, if you do have any questions, comments, feedback, do let us know. Add them to the comments. You're probably watching this on LinkedIn or YouTube. I'll be monitoring those, right? So if those come in, we'll go ahead and wrap up the session with a Q&A. If it's a super urgent thing for folks out there, you got to go and eat your sandwich or go to a meeting and you want this answer to your question, go ahead and let us know. And I'm sure we can be flexible and dive in. But real quick, Drew, just maybe you can tell folks a little bit about yourself. You worked at some incredible brands out there in B2B tech.
Yeah, my career was as a product marketer in B2B tech here in Austin, Texas. Before that founder, I spent a bunch of years in the Techstars ecosystem here in Austin. That's why I moved here. And when I was looking for a job, product marketing was the closest thing to a non-technical co-founder I could find. It was like, hey, you've got to go figure out how to sell something, who to sell it to, how to talk to them about it. You are the salesperson, so you're enabling yourself, building the assets, you're working on the product. And so kind of resonated. And my first role in product marketing was at Bazaar Voice, which is a retail and brand review site. I think at the time they were doing something like $250 million in revenue, and they supported all the smallest brands up to Target and Walmart. It was just a great experience. It was also during like the tail end of the tech boom. So everything worked. It's like we bring things to market and the sales teams hit quota year after year. And I felt lucky to start product marketing at that time. Then I moved on to a company in Austin called Rev that did captions and transcriptions for companies. Really well loved by anything from journalists to teachers to anybody who is doing research or reporting or just needed content transcribed. And it started out as kind of a human marketplace and then adapted into kind of the AI ecosystem that we know today.
Yep.
And so, yeah, it was all about in both of those roles supporting B2B product teams and sales teams be successful. Along that journey, I engaged with a lot of research and win-loss included. Some I did myself, and then probably have used 4 different vendors myself. And there's an opportunity that was presented to me by a layoff to go start my next thing. And win-loss was maybe not the most obvious thing at first, but it's become something that I'm incredibly passionate about, excited about. And I think there is so many things we could talk about today that I didn't know when I was a product marketer in-house that are actually fairly low effort, small changes in the approach that can make kind of massive impacts in the results you see. So excited to take both my product marketing experience and then my agency experience at Buried Winds over the past 2 years, supporting a bunch of other B2B tech companies to help you be successful in your own programs.
A quick question for the folks out there who are thinking about win-loss. Maybe you can quickly kind of define what win-loss looks like from your world, why they should care, and like how should they start to sort of prioritize this effort?
Yeah, I mean, when I say win-loss, what I really just think about is a voice of customer program. When you're at a really small company and you're the founder or the first product marketer, maybe you're talking to the customer like every day. And if not the customer, somebody who you want to be the customer. And so like there tends not to be a need for it at the early stages because you're so entrenched with it. But as the company scales, what develops is what I call like an empathy gap, where you had this problem and all of a sudden you got to go execute. And you build a bunch of product and you hire a sales team, but the leadership gets like further and further away from day-to-day conversations with the sales team until it becomes something on a product marketing checklist that they're supposed to do. And they like, listen to 3 to 5 gong calls like a quarter. And it just, listen, I've been there. This is like not me. I'm not calling anybody out. Well, actually, no, I am calling you out, but I'm calling myself out too. And so when I think about win-loss of the question, it's just how do we make sure we understand what the customer cares about, and some of the most impactful things the customer care about, you can learn from their buying experience. And so very specifically, close lost and close won analysis or win-loss is when you do interviews of customers that you won or lost that have just gone through the sales cycle, right? And have finished in Salesforce as the sales stage, close lost or close won. Now, I think that's the core of it. But I also think you can extend it to churn and renewals. Just like when a deal closes there or doesn't, really valuable to learn, and you learn some different things. You can run it on target prospects who never evaluated you. So that's kind of the world of win-loss as I think of it.
Nice. And real quick, Justin, I know you got a couple questions, but just one real quick follow-up. Should you prioritize wins, losses, both?
Yeah. And before answering it, use this opportunity to showcase my new Buried Wins octopus.
Oh, nice.
All right.
Yeah.
I have my mother-in-law gave me a mule one. I'm not at home right now, but it would be really cool if I had that too. So I think that's like, for a founder of a company, the first thing you need to get is a mug of your mascot.
That's right. So the question was, what do you prioritize, losses or wins? And I can tell you that the pressure will be from the CEO, the board, or whoever you're working with is to go find out the losses. And it's just because that hurts more, right? And they want to we don't want to lose those deals anymore. I think if you could do nothing but focus on one thing, it would be the closed won deals. The reason why, and this is, I've seen the most value out of them as I've helped a ton of clients for the past couple of years. Because if I asked you, George, would you rather learn a lot about the customers who picked you over the competitor and why? Or would you like to go find a lot about people who may not be the right fit for you? And I think the answer, like rhetorically, is we want a lot more people like the people who chose us. We want to get 10x that. Now, listen, I think they're all just ingredients to a recipe, right? I think close lost is important. I just emphasize close won because I think it's so undervalued. And I tend to get a 50-50 split. And the reason is close won deals, while you'll have a lot fewer of them, they'll convert or agree to participate at a higher rate. You'll have a lot more close lost opportunities, usually, and they'll convert at a lower rate. And so go after all of them. They all matter. And we can talk about in a little bit, like how the minimum thing to get set up, get things moving, but there's no reason not to be running this type of research to stay on the pulse of what your customer cares about.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's like a really big learning. You know what I mean? Like the first thing that I think at first is like, oh, I want to figure out why I didn't win. But actually what you're looking for is that common thread of why you do win, right? And what makes you special, what makes you different. So I think that's really, really good learning. Now getting to the topic of the day, win-loss recruitment. I've heard you say that the recruiting process is actually harder than the interviewing itself. So to kind of get into this topic, the meat of this topic, why is that? Why is recruiting so hard as part of this?
I don't think that we have like an intelligence problem in product marketing. I think that we have a lot of people who are very smart. And then we all have like geniuses at our fingertips with all the LLMs, whether, Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini. So it's like, I don't think intelligence is a problem. I think that you need the fuel to gain the insights. And there's a lot of things around it, like influencing your product and sales to do something is hard, and focusing on the right things. But recruitment is incredibly hard. I don't know if anybody here in the audience has like ever tried internally to go get interviews from existing customers or deals that you didn't win, but people don't respond. They're busy. They had a transaction with you. They don't want to participate, and it's very hard. It was the biggest shocker when I started the business. It's like how hard it was, and we honestly spend 75% of our time, or have, for the last first year and a half of the business, just focusing on how to get people to talk to us.
Oh.
And that's resulted from me thinking like, hey, I'll send a few emails, I'll add some incentives, and like, we got this. This is not that hard. To a very strict 20-day playbook that includes, we have cold callers, we have an SMS program, we have LinkedIn DM program, connectivity program, we have email cadences. Like, there's a whole thing about it. And so, yeah, I think just people's attention is valuable and hard to get. And so, yeah, but what I will say, and I'll just kind of expect the next question, is like, how do you get them and why do they participate? And the one good thing is, unlike sales, because I do run recruitment kind of like an SDR function or BDR function, is just getting them on the phone is the win, right? You don't have to then close them. It's just getting them on the phone. And so there's 4 main reasons why people participate in customer interviews. One is absolutely incentive. So you got to pay people for their time, and it's not sleazy. It's your time is worth something. Your customer's time is worth something. And if they're going to spend it with you, you're getting value out of it. You should compensate them for their time. The number 2 is goodwill. So goodwill is, they spend a lot of time with your sales team. They ended up buying from you, and they want you to get better. So they feel good about you, and they want to help you improve. There is guilt. So they spent a lot of time with your sales team. They liked you, but for whatever reason, you weren't the right pick. But they're still willing to spend time with you. So and these things stack up, right? They're not mutually exclusive. So an incentive plus some guilt. And then the funny ones are always passion. So maybe this is like 5% of the time, but they love you, they hate you. You get on the phone, you've got your questions prepared, and you go to say something, but you can tell they've got something to say to you, and you just like open the floodgates, let them talk, and then dig in where it's valuable for you. But yeah, it's incentive, goodwill, guilt, and passion. And you'll end up with, depending on the industry and the seniority of the person, somewhere between, 10 to 20% conversion rate of people you reach out to and contact, people who will sign up for interviews.
Wow. I think about our own sort of version of this kind of outreach. Like Justin and I spoke to close to 2,000, it's crazy to say, 2,000 go-to-market professionals, a lot of product marketers, probably 12 to 1,500 product marketers over the last 24 months or so. And, for the folks out there who did tune in, thank you, because, we were on a tight budget and we didn't incentivize folks financially. So we're really thankful for that. Drew, quick question. If you start to kind of think about the channels, you talked about the incentives and the reasons and those sort of things. And 20% is awesome. I guess we got to look, Justin, at our data. What are the best channels or ways to kind of reach out to these prospects or customers to ask for that participation?
Yeah. Well, with you guys reaching out, Justin and George, it's a different thing if you're a founder going and asking for feedback. That's a very different, I think you're going to have a much higher rate. Personal, it's energetic, it's passion filled, than like, hey, we're a company and we want your feedback on why you didn't buy from us versus the competitor. Like, obviously going to be huge drop-offs there.
That makes total sense. And by the way, our message was, we didn't have, anything, right? So we were like, we have this idea, this thesis, right? Can you give us some feedback? And that was very genuine, right? From us. It wasn't, we didn't have anything to sell to them for a very long time. So, and
we were reaching out to product marketers who do that for a living, right? Reach out to people to get feedback. So they were very open to helping out, which was awesome.
Yeah. I mean, marketing, sales are definitely the easiest to recruit in tech. But you have a question about what channel do you use? And it really depends on the audience. In 1 week, I'll go and talk to a HVAC technician, and I'll talk to a lawyer, and then I'll talk to a CMO, an executive company. And they require different things. So like if your software serves people in a kind of a blue collar profession or a trade, they're more likely to be on their phones, right? Traveling to a job site. And so we failed miserably when we tried to get people over email. I'm going to pull up real quick because I posted the stats pretty recently, but I think it was a 1.1% conversion rate over email trying to recruit people on the phone, or sorry, over email, and a 9.9% conversion rate when we got on the phone. And obviously, yeah, 9x improvement was massive for us. Not only that, but we had people, when we first set that up, people would sign up, but then they wouldn't show up. So it's not only about like how you get them, but then we just set up, we stole from kind of healthcare industry. I don't know if you've ever, set an appointment with a dentist or something like that, or a hair salon. They'll text you like the day beforehand. Just like, hey, you still coming? Just like, need to confirm you're still coming. So we implemented that, and it dropped. We were getting like a 50% no-show rate, and that dropped almost to nothing. But there's phone, there's LinkedIn, there's texting and email. What I don't want to do is make people feel overwhelmed by what you might need to do and all the options, because I think that most people are doing almost nothing. Like, I think that internal programs have such a low level of effort and lift towards this that I think just one notch up makes a big difference. So what do I mean by that? Most people I talk to who run in-house programs, they will send a single message, right? So like one email, and then if they don't hear back, they don't do much after that. And over 50% of our interviews are signed up after the first email, so second or further. So listen, if you were going to try to sell to an audience, you would never stop, especially as a marketer, after one email, right? Two, most people don't offer incentives. And I think they're just hoping on the goodwill of people, but they don't understand that people's time is worth something. And it can also be weird to feel like, hey, I'm offering $50, $75, $125 for 30 minutes of time. That feels like a lot of money, right? Like, as an hourly rate, that's really high, but just like recognize what it's worth to you, right? Like, it does. Sometimes I've been in a position where like, hey, this feels weird to give this much money, but man, if they give you insights that drives your roadmap, like, what's the cost of being wrong on that? And in the grand scheme of things, that's just like such a tiny, you're going from like $80 to $105. That $25 being spent on expenses, on all these other places. Yeah. And then you asked about channels. Like, if you are going after a lawyer versus an HVAC technician, it takes different things. So if you're trying just email, like, consider other options. Consider the phone, consider texting. One thing that's worked really well for us is referrals. So I'm talking about interview referrals. So if you are able to talk to someone, or you're looking to talk to prospects you've never talked to before, go to your customers, offer them an incentive to make an introduction, right? Like, do you know somebody in your network who is another lawyer who, I'll give you $45 for just the intro. I'll give them $105 or $150 to talk to them for 30 minutes of their time. And that's, in the legal world, the way we've had the best success, because it's such like a trusted, protected network. I see that Clayton asked a question, so I want to answer that. Is it 20% for customers or for closed lost prospects? What I'll say is that's kind of the high end of recruitment as a mix. I think that for closed won customers, that's probably what you can expect. We do have some clients who have that for the whole bundle of it. I think that closed lost is generally closer to that 10% mark and can even dip below. And then kind of on average, it's somewhere in the middle. But very specifically the question, 20% is kind of more for customers. And thank you for the mug appreciation.
I've got a question. So you mentioned referrals being like a really great channel. When you reach out, do you ever lean on the sales team or the CS team that has the relationship with the prospect or the customer? Is that something that you do? And if so, does it lead to a higher conversion rate, or is that something that you stay away from because you don't want, like, maybe it creates a little bit of animosity or like resistance from the sales or the CS team?
No, I mean, that is a bit of our secret sauce. So thank you for giving it away, Justin. No, but like a year in, we had a client who we did some work for. We hit our quota. We gave a really great report, and they came back and said, I really wish we would have gotten more enterprise deals in this win-loss analysis. And I said, like, man, I wish I would have known that, because we can adjust these things and we've finished our scope of work. And I said, I'll tell you what, you make the intros. We can't really put much more effort into recruitment, but if you make the intros, we'll do a couple more interviews and piece them together for you. And we got a crazy high recruitment rate, like way higher, like probably like 40%, because there was like 6 accounts, very hand selected, and they made the intros. But that was like a big aha moment for us. And so now for every client we onboard, the way we do it, and you should do this internally if you can, is we have the RevOps team send an email on behalf of the account executive who had the relationship, who had the opportunity open, to the primary contact on that opportunity. And so, never asking sales to do anything, because we know as marketers, we're not allowed to touch their time. But if you have it come from them, it solves 2 problems. One is just deliverability. So it increases the chance you get into their inbox pretty greatly. And that goes a really long way. And then 2 is trust. So if you are an external vendor for us, nothing looks more like scam than sending an email to Justin that says, hey, I'll give you $50 to talk. Like, I'm offering money over the internet to do a task, like by definition looks like a scam. But if it's coming from somebody you had a trusted relationship with, they say, we hired Buried Winds. We're grateful for them to talk to you, share your experiences, good or bad. And we're going to use that to better serve our clients and improve our ability to earn the business of new prospects. Then we've got some trust. And then we follow up and send emails 2 through 4. We'll send the LinkedIn campaigns, but at least we have that initial introduction. And so, yeah, whenever possible, have it come from sales. But the trick is, like, can you actually get sales to do anything? Do you even want sales to do anything if they're, towards the middle or end of quarter? No, but you can use RevOps tools like SalesLoft, Outreach, even HubSpot, Marketo to do some of that emailing.
So what I'm hearing is don't offer Bitcoin over the internet for meetings. It will come across as scams.
Money over the internet it does come off like a scam.
Well, I know we have probably about 5 or 6 minutes here. This always goes way faster than we'd like. But you mentioned these incentives, right? Because the recruiting piece makes total sense, right? It's kind of like in sales, right? If you don't have prospects entering a sales process or starting to engage with you, you're not going to have pipeline, right? And so for you to gather these insights from this win-loss assessment, again, recruiting is so key. But there were a couple of things that I wanted to kind of like sort of flesh out here. I think we understand at a high level why that's the case, right? That's the biggest blocker for these programs. But if you think about kind of the incentives, right? If we dive into those, you talked about, I know when we were prepping for this, like big mistakes that most teams make, right? So it's like that one and done messaging or, and you talked about the sequence and the strategies of getting buy-in right now, leveraging existing sales teams, et cetera. But when we think about incentives, how do we know, like, it is the, $150, versus a, I don't know, $10 gift card, kind of thing, like any sort of frameworks or strategies around determining that. And real quick, Adam, we love you too, Adam O'Brien on there. I thought you were saying that Drew's mug was, I forgot about the mug. I was like, oh, he's so handsome. I was like, yeah, he is handsome. Thanks, Adam. But anyways, all right. So determining incentives.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a bit by feel and just respect for the audience and what it's worth for you. We pretty much start all incentives for a 30-minute interview at $75. We increase it over the cadence, right? So maybe the 3rd or 4th email might go up $20, $25. So I guess if you get an email from Buried Winds, just wait. No, please respond. Just ask for more and we'll give it to you. But yeah, so start at a number that you're comfortable with, increase it over time. You'll see more surveys that are in that $10 to $20 range. It's like, hey, you can click through this in 5 to 10 minutes. You don't need to get on the phone with someone. But most of the people we're trying to target, their hourly rate, is easily $100 an hour, if not $200 an hour. So just having some idea of who the person is in the role and treating that with respect. I do think you can get interviews without incentives if you have like a really great relationship, but a lot of times you're trying to get interviews with people you don't have a great relationship with.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, listen, lawyers, their hourly rates like $200, $300 an hour. And sometimes you have to go up that.
Awesome. Real quick, Chloe has a question here, and I know we're coming up on time, so maybe we can get to Chloe's question here.
Yeah.
So Chloe asks, what's been the most actionable recommendations that you have done that generated impact from all win interviews?
Yeah, I'll put it in two categories. There's like anecdotal, impactful things and trends. So on the anecdotal side, like we'll discover that they bought the product, but there's room for a lot more spend that the client didn't understand. Right. So in some cases, like they didn't know enough about the other offerings, and like just through me interviewing them and talking to them, they tell me that they're looking for a solution to do X or Y. And it's like, well, you could also buy that from a client. Other times, just like as simple as like, hey, the billing codes aren't allowing us to buy in a certain way that we want. So that's anecdotal. That's like, hey, revenue on the table. When it comes to themes, competitive is one of the biggest values you get from win interviews, because they said, hey, we looked at you and we looked at X, Y, and Z. And hey, X and Y, we thought out the gate we were going to go with them. And they had a really great branding and really great offering. But when we got down to it, you had a trial, we got to use your UX, and it was far better than X and Y. And so what you get out of that, whether it is the UX or the features or pricing and packaging, is maybe something that was revealed to them at the end of the buying cycle that you should just move way up to the front. If you're beating a main competitor because of a reason, you hear it 2 or 3 times from a one interview, that should be the lead of the sales pitch, right? It's like, hey, yeah, we solved this pain point for you, and we do it better than anyone else because of this. And that can be stemmed straight from those closed one interviews that told you why they picked you over the competitor.
Awesome. One of the things, thank you so much, Chloe, for that. One of the things that I really love about this also is that, we're supposed to do this kind of stuff, right? Like as a best practice as an organization. But how many times I've actually never in 20 something years worked for an organization who's actually done it. We've talked about it, but it gets deprioritized and lost. So like for the folks out there, this is really, really an awesome way to actually get these insights. And I think sometimes, wink, wink, as a former salesperson, we're sort of like biased, right, towards the roadmap or features that we want to see. As founders, I think we deal with this all the time too, where you might have like a, kind of a bias towards a feature or something, right? And you have to go, you know what, I'm not, I know I'm biased towards this, but I'm not going to influence my opinion based on my own biases. This is an interesting and powerful way, I think, also, Drew, as you speak to this, to be able to actually gather unbiased data, right, and make objective decisions, as opposed to potentially tainting that based off of you as a CS or salesperson who's on the front lines, and and maybe again you sort of want to see something and maybe push it. So that was one of the other things that comes to mind as well in terms of value.
And I would say it's biased, but it's also it's not really the salesperson's responsibility, right? Yeah. They finish a deal and it's close one. They've got a number to hit. So they're on to the next deal, right? And so they go into Salesforce, they close the opportunity. There's a drop down for lost recent code. And it's like pricing, competitor, features, and like maybe they take the time to click it. Maybe they write a note, but they just don't. Like it's not a useful field. It's never that accurate. I think More accurate would be go interview the sales team. Like, you can learn a lot from them, but certainly not in their day-to-day like operations. Are they like taking time to break it down? Because they're incentivized to go hit a number.
Yeah, totally. There are so many sort of topics and double clicking we could do here. I know we're up on time here. Maybe we can do a subsequent one to dive into some of these other details. One of the big questions was, all right, well, what do I do with this data? How do I actually like analyze it and make it actionable, and not just like some PDF that's now stuck in some folder somewhere, but like we can actually roll it out. Maybe we'll talk about that, right? Like the implementation now of win-loss later on. But real quick, Drew, for the folks out there who want to hire you, who are the best fit organizations? How do they get in contact with you? And maybe just like, why should they pick you?
Yeah, sure. Well, you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you want to just learn more and think about doing it internally. Buriedwins.com is the website. And why you should pick us? I think there's a lot of great solutions out there for win-loss and customer research. There are like big tech players like Closed and Clue, and there's individual consultants doing some win-loss. I think where we stand out as an agency is, number one, we're like phenomenal and obsessed with recruiting. So if we're going to get the most interviews, and then we don't have a dashboard product that we've built that you need to log into. Everything we create is a report that is what you as a product marketer would present to your executive team, right? It's key takeaways littered with customer videos, because they're not going to trust me. They may not trust you, but they're going to trust a 20-second clip of the customer saying, you would have had this feature, or we beat the competitor because of this. That influences change. So, it's an agency built on product marketing. We've been in your shoes. We're going to get a ton of interviews, and we're going to present it in a way that you can feel really confident in passing it to your executive team.
Awesome. And you play guitar, which we can see back.
There we go. Yeah.
There you go, folks. All right.
Awesome. If that helps the deal, I'm happy to pick up the guitar.
Well, we've had guitars on the office hours session.
You should ask that in a win-loss interview. Did I win your business because of the guitar?
Totally.
Might be a hidden gem there.
I love it.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and wrap up.
It wouldn't be a hidden gem. It would be a buried win.
There you go. Well, folks, thank you so much. I see we've had quite a few people tune in here on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for doing so. If this is your first time on one of our office hours, thank you. If you're a repeat offender, hopefully this special session here with Drew was valuable. Definitely check them out. I've tagged Buried Wins in the comment section, so you can check out the information. Follow him on social, of course. Follow Drew, and if you're not an Asset Mule customer, definitely check it out. If you are, awesome. We really appreciate that. We're going to have more experts like Drew. Maybe we'll have another session with Drew digging into, the analysis of win-loss data, right? That again came up here. Drew, thank you so much to Jonathan, Chloe, Adam, Clayton for your comments, and for the folks out there who've tuned in, who didn't quite comment, but, was listening to this wisdom. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and wrap up. Thank you so much, everyone, and see you at the next office hours.